So there are rumors swirling around that Peter Jackson is working to get the rights of the Silmarillion. The idea being to potentially make a movie or multiple movies about the Silmarillion and all the stories within, and that kind of raises some questions. It's kind of one of those stories that people believe it's impossible to make a movie about. And honestly, it's true. I do think that if you were to make a singular Silmarillion film, it just would not work. But I do think there's a way to make it happen. And I hope maybe Peter Jackson comes across this. Maybe it fuels some ideas, but 3 stories come out of the Silmarillion that were released posthumously. And there is so much more to the Silmarillion than those 3. Obviously, those 3 being Beren and Luthien, Children of Húrin, Fall of Gondolin. All 3 of these stories on their own would make for phenomenal movies, which kind of gives the idea of making the Silmarillion an anthology film series. So unlike Lord of the Rings, where Lord of the Rings is a trilogy, the Silmarillion could be its own thing. Not like The Hobbit, where it's 3 parts to one story. The Silmarillion itself is an anthology of stories. It's a sort of Tolkien Bible. It's the start of all things. It's rumors of the end of all things. It's a sort of prophecy book, a history book. It's a lot of things in one. One thing it is not is a script for a movie. But if you take those 3 stories, you could make them into individual things. You could say, the Silmarillion, Beren and Luthien. You could do the Silmarillion, the Children of Húrin. You could do the Silmarillion, Fall of Gondolin. You could even, in theory, continue this into the Sons of Ainur, or the story of the Dark Elf. There's a lot of good stories to be told, and you could all put them under that Silmarillion banner. How I would start it, though, is I would start each film with a snippet of a story that doesn't quite fit into a narrative sense. It doesn't quite satisfy that film pace. It doesn't satisfy the narrative. Like, you can't talk about Beren and Luthien without talking about the Silmarils. You can't talk about the Silmarils without talking about the trees and Feanor and the music of the Ainur. You could, in theory, use all of those little snippets as the introductions to the movie, the cold open, as it were. And for example, if I were going to start with one, I might start with Beren and Luthien. It's the one that has the most name recognition. It's the one that's going to satisfy the largest demographics. It's an epic romance. It's an epic story. A warrior, an elf princess, you get up close and personal with Morgoth. It has the goodest good boy of all of Tolkien's mythology. So how do you start a story like that? Start it with the music of the Ainur. Start it with pitch black, a whisper of it all began with music, or it all started with a song. Then this big, crisp, loud choir comes in, and you get the music of the Ainur. You get the beginning of the Tolkien universe. Colors and lights and shining in the dark until it's so bright that it flashes out the screen, and you see the sort of explosion of the world like the Big Bang. And you see the expansion of the universe like the Big Bang. And the music continues on as the details of the universe come through. The music becomes less chaotic and more clear, and then it kind of fades, and suddenly you're in Arda. Maybe you're washing up on a shore.
It began with music.
Now, that was just a proof of concept clip. I'm not taking credit for any of that. It took me like an hour to slap that together. But the idea being, after that, you could continue with the music, you could continue with the sounds of life, and then also introduce that dissonance, and you could introduce Morgoth. And since Morgoth is the common thread between all these stories, kind of frame it where each of the openings covers something regarding Morgoth. So in Beren and Luthien's Music of the Ainur opening, you have Melkor and the dissonance and the initial conflict. And then before Children of Húrin, you could talk about the felling of the lamps or the felling of the trees. You could talk about the sort of back and forth from Middle-earth back to Valinor, back to Middle-earth, the darkening of half the world. You could talk about Feanor's Oath and the sons of Feanor going over to get his ass. And you could have this be the opening to Children of Húrin. And then for Fall of Gondolin, you know, there's a countless number of stories you could lean on. But that's the idea. While making a Silmarillion movie as a Silmarillion movie does not make sense. It does work, however, as either an anthology series or a film series under the same banner, in the same way that the Marvel movies are part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This could be part of the Tolkien Cinematic Universe. And how The Hobbit has 3 movies, unfortunately. Lord of the Rings clearly has 3 of the greatest movies ever made. The Silmarillion could be a really interesting addition to this, in addition to the other anthology films like Shadows of the Past or The Hunt for Gollum, which I'm not sure needed to be made, or War of the Rohirrim, which I actually really liked. I do think we should be making more animated Lord of the Rings films. I think that is actually an excellent way to go, because then you can get those cast of characters that we really love back as voice actors. You know, how do you get Ian McKellen to play Gandalf again? Animate the movie. How do you get Viggo Mortensen to play Aragorn again? Animate the characters. At the end of the day, a voice is going to hold up a lot better than the actors themselves. So that's the big and short of it. I think ultimately, whatever Peter Jackson does, we're gonna have to wait and see. We're gonna have to trust the process. I'm skeptical, but I'm always eager to see what comes out. I'd rather have Tolkien films come out than not have them come out. Despite all the flaws with the Hobbit films, they're a fun series. It's fun to watch. They don't upset me the way that other people got upset and butthurt about it. I liked Rings of Power. Yeah. I actually enjoyed that show. I still enjoy that show. I can't wait for the 3rd season. And the reason isn't because I think that Amazon did a phenomenal job with the source material. It's because I just like being in that world. And different adaptations are different for a reason. Some people swear that the animated, the Ralph Bakshi animated Lord of the Rings movies are the pinnacle. People didn't like the Peter Jackson films when they came out. People well, not people, like the neckbeards of their time, the 90s neckbeards that couldn't get over the fact that Glorfindel didn't do the crossing of the river, that Arwen had a bigger role to play, the shit like that. Those people will always find a way to yip, and unfortunately in today's world, it's never been easier to be a loud idiot, and it's unfortunately never been easier to be heard as a loud idiot. That's what review bombs are. That's what all of this sort of yapping about the Odyssey is about. That's a video for another day. That's all I got for you. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm out of here.